Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365, coming off the open practice down at the link last night, almost 50,000 strong. Joined now by Ed Kracz of SI.com, one of the best in the business. Ed, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing well, Ed.
How are you, John? How's the calf feel? I don't know if your viewers realize.
Ed's one peer pressuring me down to get down, so give Ed the credit. Along with some others, but I made it. That's all that can happen. Now I got 2 days of rest. Thanks, Nick Sirianni, for the schedule. Hopefully I can bounce back. Because then there's 4 consecutive practices, by the way, the dog days of summer. But we'll talk about that. Last night at Lincoln Financial Field, just spectacular performance from the offense. And by that nature, obviously, they're practicing against themselves. Not so great for the defense. We'll start with the bad. Anything. Ed Kracz like anything about Vic Fangio's defense.
Well, hey, they got an interception last night, right?
Yeah,
First
there
one
we
of
go.
camp.
Yeah.
Old pick six Ricks. Wasn't a pick six, but, Eli Ricks got his hands on a Kenny Pickett pass for the first INT of summer. Listen, if the Eagles are going to win, they're going to need more than one interception every 6 practices. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to hang your hat on. They're still mixing and matching. The offense certainly got the better of them last night. They're still trying to figure things out, obviously. But I saw some good things. I thought, let me think. I thought Jalen Hunt, and there's a lot of sacks. There were a lot of sacks. Jalen Hunt, I think, was in on one. You saw, I think Milton Williams had one. There was a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett, and I think that's kind of been what we've seen throughout summer. Is there is pressure. We saw some blitzing. I think I saw Reed Blankenship come on a
little bit of blitzing,
at one point. So, they're going to be aggressive, and I like that mentality, and I think Eagles fans like that mentality. How many times did they complain that Jonathan Gannon didn't blitz enough, or whoever the defensive coordinator was? Fans like aggressive defenses, and we're going to see this defense be aggressive. They're going to make mistakes, there's no doubt, and it's going to take them some time to get on the same page, and I think the offense is going to have to carry this team maybe through the first month of the season.
Ed, let's get your perspective on QB1, Jalen Hurts. By all other accounts, it's been a good camp so far. What have you seen so far from Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I think, the nearly 50,000 fans that were there last night, and, I use that nearly 50,000 fans.
Yeah, I don't believe that number, Ed.
It seemed a little rich. In my opinion, a little generous. But listen, however many people were there, the whole lower bowl was filled. Looked like back of the end zones were pretty filled up in the second level. And they got to see a Jalen Hurts that we've been seeing all through camp, Xander. And that's one that is accurate. He's making quick decisions. He's getting the ball out, and he's doing it sometimes on the run because, like I said, there has been pressure. This offensive line has kind of been shuffled and jumbled because of injuries here and there. He has been under pressure, and yet he still is making plays. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. Now, last night he almost got intercepted by Bryce Huff, of all people. Huff's a pass rusher. He's not a pass catcher.
Yeah.
Had he been able to.
Flat defender, baby. Vic Fangio dropping him into coverage.
Yeah, and Huff made a play. He broke it up nicely. Now, that was an interceptable pass. But right now, Hurts is playing. I think this is the best training camp I've seen him have in his 5th camp here. And the fans saw that last night. And I think fans probably came away thinking the same thing Hurts looks good. And I think, if he's able to carry this Kellen Moore offense, these concepts that Kellen Moore is giving him into the season, this could be another MVP year for Jalen Hurts, another MVP type year, I should say. He hasn't won one of those yet, but came close 2 years ago.
Came very close. He's been very sharp. And one thing I liked, and I like what Kellen Moore's doing in the red zone, Ed, getting Dallas Goedert involved. Man, you put him in the mix. Dallas Goedert was the player of the day, player of the night. Yes. He had a monster performance, 3 touchdowns, 2-point conversion in that situational period at the end of practice. there was play action. They're getting him open. He's using his body against the cornerbacks. We've expected this from Dallas Goedert. We all know how good he is, but for whatever reason, he never took off to the point where a lot of people speculated he might go to be with the Kittles and the Kelseys and the Mark Andrews of the world. If Kellen Moore can unlock that, this offense really, really could be special.
We've seen a lot of tight end usage in camp. I mean, Goddard is very involved in the pass game, in practices. So listen, I like to overreact. Philadelphia fans like to overreact. So my overreaction for Dallas Goedert based on last night is he's going to have a career high in touchdowns this year. His career high was 5. Set back in 2019, his second year in the league. I think he's going to go above that. I really do. I think he's going to
go double digits if last night was any.
He had 3 last night. That's just practice, but I think that's a good bet there. We got to get on Bet US, Johnny Mac.
There you go.
That drop in.
I'll take over 5. Yeah, I think that's a good overreaction.
Listen, if it doesn't happen, don't blame me. Like if you lose your mortgage, man, don't come knocking on my door.
Yeah, I give out advice. I don't bet though. So know that. I don't put my money where my mouth is. I stay away from the I shouldn't be saying that. You should bet on betus.com. I'm saying me because I try to be objective. But with Dallas Goedert, I'm going over 5. I think Kellen Moore is going to unlock something there. And the other guy I was impressed with, I was disappointed. You have to give the player of the night to Dallas Goedert. But I wish I could give it to Kenny Gainwell. I mean, man, he put an Allen Iverson like crossover on Nakobe Dean in the open field. Just made Nakobe look silly, and then he had the wheel route touchdown at the end on Nakobe. Poor Nakobe. He has looked really impressive. And I know nobody likes Kenny Gainwell, but man, he has looked really impressive in this camp.
Well, Saquon Barkley put some juke moves on too.
Everybody wants to go to Saquon. Why can't we give Kenny? I'm not saying anything bad about Saquon.
No, I'm just getting under your skin, John, because I know you love Kenny Gainwell.
But hey, Nick Sirianni's got the Kenny Gainwell football camp shirt on, not me.
Yeah, well, listen, I hope you enjoy this 17-game stretch from Kenny Gainwell because he's not coming back next year. I don't see the Eagles re-signing him.
I agree.
So, get the most enjoyment you can out of your boy Kenny Gainwell because
I think he's the most. All right, here's my overreaction. Ready, Ed?
Yep.
Most underrated player on the Philadelphia Eagles, Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah, well, okay. He might be underrated. Listen, but to me, is the consistency hasn't been there. We've seen Kenny drop some passes during the regular season.
John, I'm surprised you didn't go Reed Blankenship with your most underrated.
Reed could be in that category.
Yeah, Reed. Milton Williams gets all the underrated.
Milton Williams,
stuff. So, and of course, I think I mentioned once before the long snapper, Rick Lovato, very underrated.
Rick's great at what he does, but I'm not counting the long snapper.
Yeah, I know.
I love you, Rick, but
hey, they're people too. They're people too.
Britton Covey, I might put in that conversation as well.
Britton Covey, strong camp. Really impressed with some of the things he's done. I mean, we've seen a lot of good things from a lot of good players in camp. There's no question, and most of them have been on the offense. Sadly, but we'll see the defense, I think, start to lift it up. I love what I've seen from Jalen Hurts. The more I watch him, the more I think he's going to have some kind of a role. I didn't see much of Nolan Smith again last night. I don't know. Maybe you did, John. I'm a little.
Well, it wasn't great for the defense. I mean, it was one cover.
I'm a little concerned about Nolan Smith. He to me is a big question mark still after a week of camp. But yeah, Kenny Gainwell certainly made some nice moves last night. Had that great run.
That was the Mekhi Becton run.
Yeah,
that was just
he just opened up that hole that the three of us could have run through shoulder to shoulder.
It was like a sinkhole. You ever see those videos of sinkholes? That's what it was.
Yeah,
it was like a giant
Great Wall of Philly, baby. The Great
Wall of Philly. I like that.
Yeah, we got a chatter that dubbed that Ed Kracz, the Great Wall of Philly. I love it.
That's good. Yeah, hashtag that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks to Joe Whipp in the chat who gave us that.
All right, Joe. Yeah, but hey, listen, Mekhi Becton, I think he's going to be the starting guard, and I know John.
Alstein might be SOL, man.
I think he
better get back. He better get back very, very quickly, or he's
listen. If Becton wins this job and they go to Brazil, I wouldn't be surprised if Howie Roseman gives Becton another contract, extends his 1-year deal, gives him some starter money, gives him some security. If he wins the job, I mean, Howie has done that in the past, has given out some extensions prior to the start of the season. Yeah. He has some money under the salary cap. It wouldn't surprise me if Becton wins this job, if Howie Roseman locks him up to another 3 years.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if, remember, that's got to be a two-way street. Like, I think the Eagles would have already locked up Milton Williams by now, but, Milton wants to bet on himself.
Yeah.
And if Mekhi wants to bet on himself and he's a starter on this team, he could make a heck of a lot of money. So that's a two-way street.
Becton likes it here. All accounts are he likes it here. Yeah, and plus Lane Johnson, he's 30, what, Lane, 33 or 34?
34.
Yeah. If he wins that job, Ed, I would expect that extension to come pretty quickly if they so identify him as the starter. I think Howie would waste no time and get him.
Mekhi's got to be a man, and he is happy here, no question. But I'm just saying, if he plays the whole season, and he bets on himself, even if he stays here, he's going to make a lot more money. So that's what I mean. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
I think Mekhi would take an extension. I think he likes it here. I think, he's been to New York. Why would he want to go to a third team? Why not try to have some stability in the city? So I think if they came to him with the kind of the rate that, how he likes to get a little bit of
Tyler, man, everybody's closing the book on Tyler.
No, listen, he's got to get healthy. I mean, he can't miss time. I mean, you can't, when you're battling for a job, you can't win it in the tub, right?
I asked Jalen, though, the one thing I'm concerned about is that size. He's too big to be a guard.
But have we seen any problems in camp? Mekhi Becton has had a lot of reps at guard. Have we seen any issues?
Well, you heard the quarterback yesterday. He said, yeah, it's a thing. I asked him, I said, do we overrate it? He said, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
He blocks out the sun, Ed.
Yeah, and then you got Dickerson on the other side at guard. I mean, he's a big guy too, but there hasn't been any problems. We haven't seen it throw it, into the back helmet, of Becton or Dickerson. I mean, he seems to be working through whatever it is these big guard problems present. So I'm not worried about that in the least.
That's going to be a problem for Britton Covey, who's like 5'6". He's going to be running across the middle. You're not even going to see the guy. He's like a little ant running across the field. You just can't see him.
Right. You just got to throw it to a spot and hope he's there, I guess.
Yeah, really.
Well, and also, there have been some bad reps from Mekhi as well. Now he's going against Jalen Carter, so I mean, Jalen's pretty gifted, but you worry about leverage and getting his pads low and things like that, especially when you get into some of these big time defensive tackles, like in the NFC East, he's Dexter Lawrence right away, one of the few Giants good players. That could be an issue. So I wouldn't close the book just yet, but I think
Tyler Steen is no short guy either. I mean,
Tyler
Steen's a big guy.
And the Eagles have generally played bigger guards than most people from a height standpoint.
Brandon Brooks was 6'5". Steen is
6'5". But I tell you, and I said Dickerson is listed at 6'6". I don't know. You've seen the two together. Mekhi's listed as 6'7". He's really 6'8" because he's 6'7" and 3/4, and for some reason they round down.
Becton looks a lot bigger, and then
he does. That's what I'm saying. I know what it says on paper.
Helmet and cleats, he's like 7'2". I mean, listen, I'd like to get a measuring tape out and measure him. He might be 6'7" or 6'8", but he's so thick and so wide.
That's what I mean. He looks a hell of a lot bigger than Landon Dickerson. He looks bigger than Mailata.
Mailata said to me that he's bigger than him. So he's a big guy. There's just something about the way he carries himself. He looks huge.
Yeah, he really is. Ed, let's go to the next level. We'll go to the defense and Kobe Dean. A lot of talk about him last night. John talked about Kenny Gainwell. Apparently just burned him 2 times on passing routes. Overall, though, not just last night, You've been at practice now for 6 days. What have you seen from Nakobe Dean? Is it time to be worried about him being any sort of impact on this team this year?
Yeah, listen, I like Dean. I think he's got good instincts. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not really sold on him yet. I know it's all, the backups are always the popular ones that you look at, especially a quarterback. You look at, they're always the most popular guy when the quarterback's struggling. But I tell you, Jeremiah Trotter to me seems to be getting more work with the twos. And, he showed some really good sideline speed, I think, on a couple of those flat passes. He was hustling down the line and was in position to make a tackle. At some points, during the second team work. But I really like Trotter. And I wonder, if he could play a role at some point this year. Nakobe has stayed healthy this year, which is a great sign so far. 1 week into camp. Now 4 days of practice next week is really going to test, these guys' physical ability and their endurance and all that stuff. And you hope he can stay healthy through it, because I think he can play. I just think, after you miss a year, you're still coming back. Maybe there's a little rust. Maybe he's trying to do a little too much. But, he looks like he's overreacting to some plays and puts himself in bad position, kind of like that, the juke that Gainwell made. Like Dean put himself out of position on those plays.
He overran it. Yeah.
Yeah. If he would just do what he's supposed to and kind of break down earlier, he makes that play. So, something that he's going to have to work through. And I think he can. I mean, the guy won the Butkus Award winner he was the Butkus Award winner in college at Georgia. He's got the ability. He just has to let the game come to him. He can't try to do too much. He can't get back last season. And, in 1 week of practice, you have to work your way through that. And I think he will. I think the Eagles still like him. I think he'll still have a role. But, he's got to play better. He's got to show that he can play better.
And I'll just say, beware of that dog at linebacker, Ed. You know what I'm talking about, Ben. Don't forget about Ben Van Sumeren, because he's showing some stuff. And
yeah, I'm not as high on Ben Van Sumeren as you, John. I mean, I think he's a good special teams player.
He's a very good special teams player. So that's my point. He's going to make the team. I just, he would. It's a very small sample size. It might amount to nothing, but when he was thrown into the deep end of the pool last season, he looked pretty instinctive. It's like one game, but he looked pretty instinctive.
I think the best thing that this linebacker group has is Bobby King, the position coach. He's an NFL veteran, unlike last year's linebacker coach, who was a college. Came over from the college.
Poor DJ Elliott got scapegoated. Think about his difficult job. Sorry, I'm on a tangent, but man, that freaking guy had to get Zach Cunningham up to speed, Miles Jack up to speed, Shaq Leonard up to speed, and then they say, "Oh, you're to blame for the crappy linebacker." Maybe Howie Roseman is to blame for the crappy linebacker play by devaluing the position.
Well, I think it's not a devalue for Roseman. I think it's more a allocation of resources. You can't pay everybody. The Eagles' biggest mistake was letting TJ Edwards go.
Yeah, no doubt.
And however that played out, if he wanted to go home to Chicago, listen, I've heard TJ Edwards interviewed a lot since he left, and he loves playing in his hometown. He loves playing for the Bears. So that might have been a big part of it. He wanted to go home and play for his hometown team. And he talks about it every interview, is how much he loves to play in Chicago. So, I don't know if that was more, on the Eagles or if it was on TJ, but Howie just doesn't allocate the resources. Every team has a position that they have to, maybe not pay what they want because they have to pay other positions. They value those positions more. So I think it's more just just an allocation of resources thing. I don't think they.
Well, I agree. And typically, I give Howie a ton of credit. Xander knows, I think Howie's a tremendous general manager.
Well, he is. There's no doubt about that. I
do think he's taken it too far at linebacker. I do think he's taken it a little bit too far. I hear what you're saying about TJ, but TJ loved being here. That's one of those things where you sign, and I'm not saying that might be 100% true, that he just wanted to go home. And I brought that up at the time. He was a big Bears fan growing up. We've talked to him over the years. But he loved being here. The Eagles took a shot on him. Clay Harbor, our buddy, reported, former Eagles tight end, that the Eagles never made him an offer. So I maybe he would have taken the Bears offer anyway, but I think he went too high. And
The thing that annoys me about it is, Ed, you talk about the allocation of resources. We do have the resources for what TJ got on his contract, especially with the way Howie works his deals. I mean, we have minor cap hits on guys that are making $20 million, let alone a guy that made $7 million. Howie could have easily fit him into the cap easily.
Yeah, it wasn't
a really good player. Talk about underrated. Boy, Eagles fans underrated TJ Edwards. They really did.
Listen, but the linebackers now is I thought it was a good group when they brought in Devin White and Zach Bond. I thought, that's not.
I remember over the summer, Ed, you were okay with the linebacker group.
Yeah, and then you mix Fangio in. I said Bobby King will help this group, but I also think Vic Fangio and just his, I think he'll have them playing as a unit. Unlike I think last year, they seemed to be undisciplined. That whole defense late in the season obviously broke down, and I think too many guys were trying to do too many things, playing hero ball, that kind of stuff. But I think this year they'll be a little more disciplined. They'll know what they're doing with Vic Fangio. They'll be a little more coordinated, which is the defensive coordinator's job. And I'm not, I'm not down on this group at all. It would be nice to see the defense make more stops against the offense in these practices, but it's going to be fun to see how they do against Baltimore next week.
There's 32 teams in the NFL. Last time I checked. Don't the contracts bother you at all, Ed? Because they bother me. Not that they're the be all end all. But again, there's 31 other teams. The Eagles got Zach Bond for 1 year at the veteran minimum and with some incentives. The Eagles got Devin White for 1 year and $3.5 million and some incentives. I mean, there's 31 other teams that had shots at these guys and said, I don't want to go to $4 million. I don't want to go to $2 million for Zach Bond.
Yeah.
Now, there's a bunch of dummies in this league, but they're not all dummies. Doesn't that scare you a little bit when it comes to the optimism at that position?
No.
Because that's where I am.
No, not really. Because you don't know what a player's looking for either. I mean, I know money's usually the be-all, end-all for these guys, and if teams really wanted them, they would have gone higher. But, it's all about what's out there at the time. And if you're a player and you see a deal that, okay, with a team like the Eagles, and, hey, why wait? Why wait for a better offer? Let's just jump on this now. And they signed Devin White pretty quickly and Zach Bond pretty quickly in free agency. So maybe they just beat some other teams to the punch. The contracts don't concern me at all. I mean, I just think that, maybe Devin White, maybe people saw how he took last year and got hurt, lost his starting job, maybe not knowing all the factors behind why he did, and decided not to take a chance on him. But I don't really put a whole lot into that. No.
Well, that's what drives me nuts right now about Nakobe Dean is because John points out the contracts, and the Eagles' investment in the linebacker position isn't really financial. It's the draft pick. It's the third-round draft pick they spent on Nakobe Dean. Just like you could go to the D-line and be like, well, they're not really spending a lot of money on the D tackle. Well, yeah, because they spent first-round draft picks and they haven't gotten their contracts yet. But Nakobe just hasn't. He just doesn't seem like he's going to be a role in the team, and if it is, it's not going to be a big one. And I don't know.
I think he's going to be a starting linebacker. Even off last night, I think Nakobe Dean is going to be the best linebacker on the Philadelphia Eagles. I have not wavered from that.
That'd be great if he was for the Eagles. He's signed for the next 2 years, right? I mean, he goes this year and next year. So that'd be great for the Eagles salary cap if he proved he can play because he's still under contract and White and Bond are not. And then you supplement with Jeremiah Trotter, who I think could play a role at some point. Like I said earlier, he's a guy, a fifth-round pick that they bring in. And, now you have him under control for 4 seasons. So you hope he can, kind of figure it out and become a starter himself.
Well, if he's comparable, why not just play Trotter then? You only have Dean for 2 more years. You have Trotter for 4. If they're close, I mean, I don't know. I would just go.
I think later in the season you might see that, to be honest. But you do need a little bit of ramp up time for a day 3 pick. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jeremiah Trotter is playing at some point this season at linebacker. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
No,
it would surprise me day 1, but later in the season it wouldn't surprise me.
Right. Yeah, I think. I don't know. Does Trotter play special teams too? Have you noticed him on special teams?
Yeah, he's playing special teams.
Yeah, so that, maybe that keeps him active on game days. Like you always try to figure out, okay, who are they going to keep that won't be active on game day? And initially, I thought maybe Jalix Hunt would be that guy, but I think that they're going to keep him active. I think he's going to have a role day one, and I guess Trotter will as well. But yeah, I would play Dean. I know to your point, Xander, about the contract thing, like why not play the guy that has 4 years versus the guy with 2? But listen, I think you have to maximize Dean if you can. He was a 3rd-round pick, and 2 years is 2 years. I mean, that's pretty long time. So I would, if it's close, I would still play Dean. But I might find some times to put Trotter into a game.
All right, let's get in the weeds, Ed. I got to get you in the weeds on this defense because you keep making Jalix Hunt references. He's going to be here. Is he going to have a role? I mean, obviously, he's going to be on the team. He's going to be on the 53. I'm still leaning towards he's going to be more of that inactive guy, developmental year. But we'll see. Hopefully, he's a natural. Hopefully, he can get on the field. But then you need that fifth edge rusher. And where people are talking, maybe Hunt can do it. Maybe Julian Okwara. Nobody talks about Patrick Johnson except the coaching staff.
Right.
They seem to love Patrick Johnson.
Yeah. And again, I think last night he might have been one of those players that got some pressure. We haven't seen a lot of first-team reps with Patrick Johnson, though, which is, you wonder why if Nick's talking so highly of him. Listen, he's always been a good special teams player. This, I think, is his 4th season, I think it's his 4th year.
It's his contract year.
It's his contract
year. Around, man.
Yeah, he has been around. But he got some time under Gannon 2 years ago, early in the season. He played the most snaps he's ever played 2 years ago under Gannon. And then last year when, the disaster that was Sean Desai and Matt Patricia came in, he just was buried. So, yeah, he's certainly one to keep an eye on if you're looking for that 5th pass rusher, another special teams guy. But, he's flashed. There's no question he has flashed. Now, are they confident enough to use him in that role? I don't know. I keep throwing Jalix Hunt out there because I just like his explosion. I love his physicality at the point of attack. He'll bull rush you. He's very strong. I think he has to expand his repertoire in the pass rush game, but what he has, he's pretty good at doing. And plus I like his first name, Jalix. If I had it to do all over again, I might name one of my kids Jalix.
Smart guy, Ivy League guy too. He's smart. He's,
it's funny. I was talking to our friend Olivia Rayner from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and she said, he's named after a perfume, Jalix. That's what he said.
Oh, that's right. I remember that story. She wrote a story on that, I believe, at the draft.
She said she tried to find that perfume and see what it was all about, and she can't find it in stores anywhere, but it's online. But she's like, I don't want to get it because, you don't know how it's going to, you don't know what it smells like.
Who cares? You do it for the job. Oh, I'm going to rip Olivia next time I see her.
I thought it was a good perspective. I'm like, I never thought about looking into the perfume, but I just like that name, Jalix. Like I said, I would have named my first kid that Jalix if I would have known that, I could do it.
Probably just a fruity mom perfume. I don't think there's anything to pull out of that, but maybe there is. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Long term, I got a lot of excitement over Jalix Hunt. I do think it's going to take a little. That's a tough jump from where he was playing to the NFL. But
I like the skill set. I like the fact that he started as a safety. So and then he outgrew the position.
Crazy, by the way. You talk about dropping guys into coverage.
Yeah,
Vic loves doing it. Occasionally as a curveball, he should be able to handle it.
That's why I kind of think he was a Vic pick.
Vic definitely liked him in the draft. Not everything's a Howie pick though.
I know, but I mean, like they might have done it because they knew they had Vic. I'm not saying Vic said, "Hey, pick this guy," and Howie listened. I'm just saying that they probably picked him for Vic.
I think we were talking for some reason we got into Jalen Reagor. That was just shift. From that point forward, they're all Howie picks. He's not listening. He listens, but he's making the final decision. And he said, if he's going to get the shit board, he might as well make the picks. So.
Cooper DeJean is up in the air. That to me looked like a Jeffrey Lurie pick when I watched that video from the draft.
I think everybody. I think everybody likes Cooper. I mean, the only reason he fell to 40 is because of the fractured fibula. I mean, he would have been a first.
Well, I think people like him, but would you have picked him? I think is a different story.
But I've traded up. They traded up to get him at 40. I think people are going to be very happy with Cooper DeJean when they finally get to see him. But he's out of sight, out of mind. It's crazy. He's out for 3 weeks, and people act like he's non-existent. He's going to be back very quickly.
Yeah, 2 more weeks. He's going to miss the preseason. You talk about someone that could be a game day inactive early on. It could be him.
Yeah, it might put him back a little bit in the regular season. But I think by week 4, week 5, he'll be out there and everybody will be thrilled. And
he's 21 years old. I mean, he's got a future.
Yeah.
But the Eagles traded up not only to 40, they traded up with an NFC East rival in the Washington Commanders and allowed the Commanders to take 2 pretty good players. I think they took a tight end. With the picks that the Eagles traded him, and they took someone else. But I mean, so they must have really loved him.
But you know what? We also talked about the DeAndre Devontae Smith year. When the Eagles moved up to get Devontae at 10, technically they could have gotten Micah Parsons. And the Cowboys are very happy. The Eagles are nobody cares. Even though you could argue Mekhi's, the best defensive player in football. He's in that conversation, but the Eagles don't care.
Yeah.
You could always play that game with the draft. It's
right. But at the time, in the moment when you're trading with a division rival, it's like, oh my gosh, they traded with a division rival. Even when they did it with the Cowboys that year, it's like, wow.
I mean,
they made a couple deals with the Cowboys in the draft. Yeah. They traded in the 4th round. The Cowboys took Tyler Biadasz, the center, who's now with the Commanders. It happens, but in the moment it's like, wow, that's a pretty big deal. Let's see who that team takes.
Well, that year was crazy because the Cowboys were at 10, the Giants were at 11, and the Eagles were at 12. And the Eagles moved up over the Giants because they knew the Giants were going to take Devontae.
Yeah.
And they had to get up to 10. And the Cowboys were fine with going down because they knew the Eagles were taking an offensive player. They knew the Giants wanted a receiver, so they were fine dropping 2 spots to get Micah. And it worked out for both. Sometimes it works out for both.
Yeah.
Ed, last one for me. I got a good one for you, and I'm going to give you an over/under for the year. This isn't from a book or anything. This is made up completely by me. Over/under on yards and touchdowns for Johnny Wilson. Over 225 yards, over/under, and over/under 2.5 touchdowns for Johnny Wilson. What are you taking, Ed Kracz?
Yeah, I was a guy I had in my show prep today. I had Johnny Wilson written down thinking, I'd like to talk about Johnny Wilson because I think the Eagles love Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, I think so too.
So listen, so you say 225 in yards and how many touchdowns? 2.5?
2.5.
I'm going to go over on both.
I like it. That's where I was
feeling optimistic. It's still August. I like how the Eagles like the kid. He's a big kid. My problem with him sometimes is he just struggles with these concentration lapses where he'll drop a pass in individual drills. Just it shouldn't.
Thank God he's got Anias next to him. It doesn't look as bad.
That's true.
Yeah, but listen. From straight out of the mind of Xander Krause with the 225 and 2.5 on Johnny Wilson, I'm going over, man. I'm feeling.
I love it, Ed.
Well, I think there's a potential
Johnny Wilson hype.
I think there is a potential Johnny Wilson goes over those numbers, but Eagles fans would not like the path to that potential. The only way that happens is if AJ or Devontae are hurt, and then it'll go over those numbers. But it will not be a good thing. He has a chance
to get some reps at wide receiver 3 with those guys still on the field. I really do.
I think they're carving out a red zone package for him. We saw, the pass to him in the end zone last night. I think it was from the 25. Yeah. It wasn't quite inside the red zone, but listen, I think they're going to carve out. He's a big guy. Just throw the ball up. Let him catch it. Let him make a play. I think they're working on that.
John, you taking the over or under?
I'm taking the under.
All right, mark it down, Xander.
I got it. Again, if one of those 2 guys gets hurt, he's going over. So to me, it's an injury thing. He's not playing enough. An injury thing. He's not playing enough unless somebody gets hurt to get to those numbers. The Eagles are trying him in the red zone because it's practice. I mean, but when they
And he's big. He's 6 foot. What is he? 6'7",
Yeah.
6'8"?
But I mean, when they get to real games, they got A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith, so they're going to be fine in the red zone. Yeah, I mean, he's day 3 developmental guy. He's going to be here. He's going to be on the team. But yeah, I don't think he's going to have a huge role this season.
Incoming Johnny Wilson watch. Ed, you don't know this. We already have the Saquon watch. For JAKIB Sports, will be giving away 1 jersey of Saquon every week if he goes over 125 yards. This came to be because Johnny Mac has been dubbed the Saquon hater by the fans of the show. So now we have launched the Johnny Wilson watch, where we will be watching Johnny Wilson.
By the way, Ed, to that point, context, I've asked 100 people. We haven't asked Ed. We should ask Ed.
Yeah, we should go on the way out here.
Numbers, Saquon Barkley, all-purpose yards, rushing, receiving. What number you got him at?
I would probably go like maybe 1,600.
1,600.
Maybe
I have
maybe 1,500. Probably go 1,600. Like I said, I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling good. I'm going to go 16.
Here's the thing. I'm dubbed the Saquon Barkley hater, as Sander said. I have him at 1,650 to 1,700.
Ooh,
somewhere.
That's a big number.
And no one. I've asked multiple. How many people have I asked? Sander?
We've asked 8 to 10 people.
8 to 10 people. Nobody is as high as me, and somehow I'm the hater.
It's a big number for a hater, John.
Now, John, here's how the goalposts have been shifted. You're now being called a hater because you set the number so high that when he goes under it, you're going to be able to take your flowers.
No.
Here's
why. No.
That's the accusation out there. I'm not saying it.
No.
It's not me. It's just the accusation.
Because I've explained where I got the number. I got the number A from his last good season with the Giants, and B from Miles Sanders in his season 2 years ago, where he had 1,269 yards. So he's got to be a little bit better than Miles with this offensive line. So I got him at 1,300 rushing yards, Ed, and 350 to 400 receiving. That's where the number comes from.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think 13. I'm thinking like 12 to 13 rushing. I think he's going to have 300 to 400 receiving. Yeah. So he should.
If he's healthy, and everything's dependent on health. If he's playing that many games.
Yeah.
And nobody has gotten to that number. You were the closest. You're the closest.
Yeah.
And yet I'm the one who hates Saquon Barkley.
And
all these other morons who claim they love him think he's not going to be as impactful as me.
Yeah. Well, you still hate him, even though you set a high number. I know you still hate him.
And by the way, I love the guy. How could you not love him?
I know. He's a great kid.
He's a great guy.
Really great guy.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah, but I digress. SI.com/NFL/Eagles. Make sure you read Ed Kracz, and you can read me as well if you're there at KratzE on X.com/Twitter, whatever you like to call that. The best in the biz. Thanks, Ed.
Always fun, guys. See you Sunday, John.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it, man. There's Ed Kracz joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Ed Kracz, one of my favorite guests that we get on. Just a funny guy, Ed Kracz, Johnny Mac. Just makes me laugh, Ed Kracz. I love the way he does it.
He got the closest to me, the Saquon.
He did. It's going to be fun to follow along.
We're over. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, we're good. I mean, I'm not in a rush out of here. We're over 10, so we're good,
though. One of my buddies in the industry, Andy Jasner, passed away last night suddenly, and I wanted to mention and say nobody loved their family more than Andy. It's the son of the legendary Phil Jasner, Sixers beat writer, great reporter on his own right, but loved his family, never stopped talking about his 3 girls. Devastating news, and I just wanted to send condolences to everyone there. We talked about Saquon Barkley being a great guy. Andy Jasner was a great guy, and just wanted to mention that.
Well done by you, Johnny Mac. Rest in peace to Andy Jasner. Thank you for sending those up. Good on you. We appreciate you doing that. Good show today, Johnny Mac. I don't want to end it on that's tough to hear. You never want to hear somebody that has 3 daughters like that pass away. But let's try and not end it on a sad note. Any closing thoughts, John, today outside of that on what went on last night at the practice? I thought it was a very positive night for Philadelphia Eagles fans and for the whole team. A lot of energy. Seems like everybody's ready to get into the next season after what happened last year. Any closing thoughts on this Football Friday from you?
Yeah, it is practice, and Adamo talked me off the ledge a little bit. I was disappointed. It's natural if you have that kind of offensive performance and you're practicing against the defense. And it was not a good performance. And it's August. The calendar turns, so it starts getting later and later. You got to pick it up at some point. I think Big's got to start making decisions, maybe get a little bit more locked in on the defensive side. Maybe that helps. But yeah, the more I look at that defense, the more it's all going to be on that defensive front. And if they don't have a good performance, whether it's in a practice or a game day, it's going to be a long day for the defense. And hopefully that defensive front can perform.
Last thing, Johnny Mac, before we let you get out of here, 10:04. So we are after. We appreciate all of our viewers. What's the schedule? They're off today. They're off tomorrow.
I got to walk through today. They are off tomorrow. Players are off Saturday. Then they're back at it Sunday. First of 4 consecutive practices. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's a walkthrough because Friday is the preseason opener.
That's right.
At the Baltimore Ravens, one of the best teams in the NFL. So at least, Lamar's not going to play and Jalen's not going to play. And you're not going to see the superstars, but they're a very deep team, and maybe it gives you a better indication of where the Eagles are from a depth perspective.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on next week. Remember, everybody, Birds 365, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be the late show because of the practices, obviously, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Sunday, I'll be doing a football 24/7. Hopefully, I can get Johnny Mac up for a little bit of that. Maybe we'll do a quick 25, 30-minute recap of the practice on Sunday. So enjoy your weekend, everybody. We appreciate you being here. John, great work today. Thanks to our new sponsor, everybody, Bet US, who will be powering the show all season long. We'll be looking at the prop bets. We'll be covering, playing along with the Saquon Barkley stakes that we're doing with the jersey giveaway. So thank you to Bet US, who is now a new member on the channel, a new sponsor of the program. So we appreciate them. Johnny Mac, great show today. Thanks, everybody in the chat. We smashed our like goal today. We're up to 121 likes. Thank you guys for that. Johnny Mac, great show, man. I'll catch you on Sunday night, hopefully, for a football 24/7 and then a Monday show on Birds 365. All right, man?
All right. Everybody have a good weekend. Yeah, gear up. It's coming quickly.
Coming quickly, everybody. Thank you all. Appreciate you all so much. We'll catch you later on today on the National Football Show.